I'm not saying that Raheem is no good player, but I prefer different kind of wingers, and this is the reason why.
Elsewhere, Ilkay Gundogan has left Spain to fly to Manchester as the defending Premier League champions Manchester City work on a deal to bring the midfielder back to the club. The 33-year-old left City for Barcelona in 2023 after captaining the side to their historic treble. Gundogan could provide a short-term solution for the team's personnel issues, including the $105 million departure of Argentina forward Julian Alvarez and the injured winger Oscar Bob. Now, the first test between England and Sri Lanka continues at Old Trafford, and the hosts are well on top so far. Sri Lanka won the toss and batted first, but lost 3 wickets for just 6 runs at the very start of the match. England's Chris Woakes took 2 wickets in a maiden over, and the visitors are continuing to struggle. Only captain Dhananjaya de Silva's half-century holding up any resistance for them. They're currently 176 for 7. We'll keep you up to date with the latest throughout the day on BBC News. In golf, the players have been preparing for the Women's Open, which starts tomorrow at St Andrews in Scotland. World number 1 Nelly Korda of the USA will tee off with defending champion and compatriot Lilia Vu, who's ranked just behind her in second, and the UK's Charlie Hull. They'll tee off just after 1 o'clock on the old course at the historic club, which the players say poses different challenges to other courses.
It's all about the weather and taking it a shot at a time and being very present. And it's also fun because it's a different and creative side to golf where, you have to work the ball sometimes more than you're used to, and you're hitting different shots, bumps and runs. It's just a little bit more creative, and for me that's fun to do. So I have a lot of fun with it.
Defending US Open singles champion Coco Gauff drew a crowd in New York as she practiced ahead of the start of the tournament next week. The 20-year-old is looking to become the first woman to defend her singles title since fellow American Serena Williams achieved the feat with 3 straight US Open victories from 2012 to 2014. And finally then, Australia's cycling governing body has said it expects Matt Richardson to be ineligible to take part in competitive events for 2 years after he switched nationality to Great Britain. The 25-year-old track cyclist won 3 medals for Australia at the Paris Olympics, but announced his change of allegiance last week. However, under rules from the Cycling Union, cyclists who change nationality are not eligible to compete at the next edition of the World and Continental Championships, which follow the date of their switch. Well, for all the latest on all of the sporting stories, head to the BBC Sport website and app. But for now, back to you, Matthew.
Molly, thanks very much. And let's go straight back to that breaking story, those developments we've been hearing in the last, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, with divers searching the luxury yacht, searching within it that sank off the coast of Sicily, have found the bodies of 2 of the 6 missing passengers. Let me put the live pictures that are still coming to us from Porticello.
and
countries around the world. But I think what makes Edinburgh Fringe so special is that you've but also you've got tiny music venues, lots of free performance, little bars and cafes around the city, and we're one.
Finding your voice, taking up space, and giving yourself permission to be loud, told through the lens of my life growing up and through caring for my mother in her death from cancer.
And how has music and opera helped you come to terms with your grief?
It is essential, absolutely essential, because my mother passed away right at the beginning of the pandemic, and with sort of radical new grief, we had a very personal grief in our family, as I know did. And so here singing some of her favorite music, you know, it's an opera show, but people walk in to Motown music because she loved Motown music. And
6 of those passengers still missing. 2 more of those passengers retrieved in the last hour or so. So the pictures into us in the last 60 minutes. We'll talk to Bethany Bell, our correspondent there in Sicily, in terms of that search, how it's going, what the authorities are saying to the media who are assembled there. All of that ahead here in the coming minutes on BBC News.
Hello there, let's take a look at some of the bigger weather stories going on across the globe. Now, we'll start with North America, and there's plenty of heat across the continent, particularly central southern United States, where we will see a few big thunderstorms, especially across the Carolinas, Georgia into parts of Florida, and also flaring up across the Midwest into central Canada. Some pretty big storms as well across the Canadian Maritimes. Largely dry for the west coast, pleasant sunshine, but still very hot across the desert southwest. Now into southern Mexico, Central America, some heavy downpours likely here on Thursday. And we'll start to see the shower activity ramping up across the Caribbean, even across the Leeward and Windward Isles as we move towards the end of this week. Dry, settled, sunny weather across much of central parts of South America, especially across Brazil. Looks dry, sunny and hot pretty much everywhere. This weather front bringing some rain to the northeast of Argentina, bringing in a drop in temperature for places like Buenos Aires. A lot of dry, settled weather on Thursday across Europe. Still the chance of some thunderstorms across eastern areas, which could be quite heavy. The odd one in towards the eastern Spain. Other than that, it's dry, sunny and warm with temperatures where they should be for the time of year. rather cloudy and cool at times across Scandinavia and in towards the UK. Still very hot across northwest Africa. We've seen some pretty heavy rain and storms affect the Atlas Mountains of late. We're likely to see further storms here. Central Africa looks very wet from the east to west coast of the equatorial countries. The risk of some flooding actually again towards the end of the week. And also risk of flooding for southwest Saudi and Yemen. These storms continuing elsewhere across the Middle East. It's dry, sunny and very hot, in fact stifling hot in places. Southwest monsoon rains still bringing some issues across northern India into parts of Pakistan with flooding. We have warnings in force here, but some drier interludes towards the southeast there for Chennai, reaching the mid-30s. Got a tropical system bringing heavy rain to the Korean Peninsula on Thursday. That will slowly clear away. It's still very wet across southern and southeast China. Risk of flooding here, same too for Taiwan and also for parts of Indonesia into the Philippines. Looking pretty wet. But again, southern Indonesia staying dry, with Java seeing plenty of sunshine, temperatures into the mid-30s. Thursday looks largely dry across Australia, away from the southwest. This weather front will be heading towards New Zealand for the end of the week, so things turning a lot more unsettled here, wet and windy at times. Take care.
One thing I can say which is true of this region is that it's become harder to be a journalist. It's really important to be on the ground. If that means you've got to go to hostile, remote places, then we have to do that.
That's the opium resin. There's a very pungent smell of it in the air right now.
The Delta wave of COVID devastated India, and I think it was the coverage that we did for the BBC at the time which brought international attention.
What's happening here could affect the world's ability to recover from the pandemic.
We've met with families who've had to do the unthinkable.
Another person came up and asked if we'd like to buy their child. The desperation is hard to put in words.
Many of the stories we've had to tell are distressing, they're difficult, but that's usually an indicator that they're really important stories to tell.
Live from London, this is BBC News. 2 more bodies have been found in the wreck of a yacht that sank off the coast of Sicily. We'll be live with the very latest. Day 3 at the Democratic National Convention after the Obamas electrified the gathering in Chicago.
I'm Katrina Perry in Chicago, where Democrats are hoping to build on that energy tonight when Tim Walz officially becomes the party's vice presidential nominee.
Here in the UK, a man is arrested on suspicion of murder after a woman and 3 children die in a Bradford house fire. And Romanian police raid the home of the controversial social media influencer Andrew Tate as part of an investigation into new allegations against him. And the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken ends his tour of the Middle East as diplomats continue to push for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Hello, welcome to BBC News, and today's Verified Live. Divers searching the luxury yacht that sank off the coast of Sicily have recovered the bodies of 2 of the 6 missing passengers.